So welcome everyone to this free teleconference as a sign of gratitude for your participation in the contest last week. We had a whopping 1,257 entries, and it was very difficult to select the top three, so difficult that I couldn't reduce it down to less than four. But there were many, several hundred that were amazing, and and the top 20 it was grueling, and I read them all. Some of you were silly about it, and that's fine. Good joke, but blowing out my eyes. I have limited bandwidth on these. So next time, cut the jokes and keep it to the contest. So let's backtrack now and go down to these questions. I'm going to pull this out so it continually refreshes. Let's go to the first. And in the order that they were listed, so I apologize. If yours isn't addressed immediately, please start posting your questions while I'm addressing others. It seems there might be a slight lag, and I apologize for that delay. So from Michael, how can this program, flow, 6-degree flow, be best integrated into the 4-day wave with TACFIT and the other programs like TACFIT? Well, if this is a compensatory program, a yoga program, it's optimally going to be fitting into your low intensity day. So think of it as recovery. Now, obviously, you can focus on some of the skill development phases where you're switching back and forth between an exercise that might require a degree of strength. So remember that that's going to up the conditioning from low to perhaps moderate intensity. Watch it if you're at that low intensity level in your wave. Keep it as a recuperative method. Alex, do I have any? You have a dream to make real, to create a school system based upon flow. You're in the process of studying. Uh, you have a lot of study to do. And if you're looking for integrating into a school system, into the traditional school setting, the best thing to do is start by mastering the current educational system. Regardless of what you think of the educational system, if you don't understand how it's currently structured, implemented, and funded, you won't have a chance of being able to, without externally creating an educational system, meaning creating your own school, private school setting, you won't have a chance. You really need to master the current educational approach and then look at how you can shift from the inside. You have to work slowly in micro elements, and in a real way, you have to, one, make it the administration's idea, and two, resign ownership of taking credit for what the student's success, and three, create some kind of feedback system where you're able to get teacher, student, and parent feedback that you can provide to the administration for the next step. And it's that cyclical process of doing good at small increments, receiving feedback, giving credit to the administration that will keep you spiraling upward into potentially making a large paradigm shift in the school. Good luck. Peter, you're hypermobile in most of your joints. Is there any type of exercise or movement that you should be careful with? Well, if you're hypermobile, then you're avoiding going beyond the natural range of the joint. Now, being hypermobile, you want to increase the joint stability in most of your joints. So if you're looking at the elbow is supposed to be a stable joint. If you're doing your push-ups and your elbow can go beyond vertical alignment, you don't want to go to your physiological lock. You want to go to the mechanical lock, in that your elbow stabilizes perpendicular to the plane of gravity, to the plane of the pull of gravity, perpendicular to, not necessarily to the ground, because if you're on an incline or decline, you want it perpendicular to the angle of resistance so that you're increasing the stability of the joint. Don't think that just because your joint's shaped a particular way that that's natural. It's not unnatural, but we get into this current hokum with the way things are, or the way things are best. So if I have hypermobility in a particular joint, then I should move that direction. You know that you shouldn't, because you don't want to increase the degree of distress to the joint. You want to look at what is my alignment and how can I increase stability to resist the pull of gravity and to resist my torque and torsion when I'm in motion. So in the basic elements, in the basic exercises in 6-degree flow, work on the stabilization of your joints so that they're perpendicular to the pull of gravity. And that will help you in understanding where the stability is. And plus, read the book. The more that you read the book, the more that you're going to understand. Not just do, but also study. Excuse me for my cough. Somebody sneaked some dairy in somewhere in one of my meals. All right. Cahuchin. I hope I pronounced that. I probably butchered it. I'm sorry. Restorative properties aside, how much can a system such as this add to show muscle versus go muscle? Well, think of it this way. If you want to increase your show muscle, then you want to increase the contractibility of the entire length of a muscle. A tense muscle can't fully contract. Only a fully relaxed muscle can completely contract. So if you look at flow as your way to totally relax the tissues to create the compensatory opposite of what you're doing to increase your muscle tension, then you're going to increase how much show you get out of that muscle in its contractibility. Look at the tissue that you're trying to tighten and increase in size, then do the opposite in flow. That's how you'll increase the size of the muscle, the cross section. Don't get too caught up in it. Believe me, at my age, I also like to hold muscle, and I've been married for a long time, but I still like to look good for my wife. All right, Daniel, page 26, 6-degree flow handbook says the original flow fit is a mobility screen. Please explain, and at what level? Any level, and it's this is the purpose of the FlowFit Instructor Certification Program. The FlowFit instructors learn to assess the arrangement of mobility and stability stacks and make sure that that architecture is in proper alignment and with proper capability for motion. So that movement screen that they do is, think of it like an FMS, functional movement screen, but since it's in 6 degrees of freedom, any movement can be used as a screen. So it's a pretty intensive program, but with their movement palette, the FlowFit instructor is able to use 6-degree flow not just as a screen, but as the solution. So we can talk about it again. I would stick, Daniel, when we see each other again, I'd stick with level 3 and 2, because the complexity of level 4 tends to be problematic for most people, and keep downshifting from 3 to 2, 3 to 2, 3 to 2, wherever you see not optimal alignment and capacity. Right. Trying to catch up to the messages, so I apologize for the delay. Mike, how can forward pressure be used with FlowFit or 6-degree flow? Forward pressure is another example of a flow, but it's presented in the format of a moderate intensity and sometimes high intensity conditioning program. So think of forward pressure on your moderate intensity day as your strength training or your preparation for your high intensity day of the same program. So if you don't know what the 4-day wave is, most traditional programs are traditional approaches to exercise are before your game day, before your big try. You want to go light to no activity, just to rest. The problem with that is that we've learned over the past 30 years that you only get the benefit of your rest 3 days later, 2 to 4 days later. So if you want to have an optimal performance, your high intensity day, if you want to have your best workout, then you want to have a dry rehearsal the day before at a little bit lower intensity. So moderate intensity, then high intensity. Subsequent to that, then you have your joint mobility day following your high intensity day, and then you want some compensation. Usually the day after your high intensity day, it's your muscles are too tight and perhaps too sore to do a more deep, sweaty, significant yoga program. So do a light joint mobility program like Into Flow. In the 6-degree flow package, I've pushed in something really cool. It's my travel program. I call it unbinding because, believe me, at 500,000 miles of flying a year, I get tight virtually everywhere. So even training twice a day to ensure that my body stays hormonally locked into the time zone, so that even with good nutrition, I don't waste my meal and it gets shipped off to cold storage. That unbinding program that comes free with 6-degree flow is worth the price of the program itself. So unlike Into Flow is a standalone program. But unbinding is designed specifically to be one-stop shopping, the biggest bang for your buck issues. And it's closed chain. And a closed versus open chain is a little bit of a challenge to discuss right now. But think of it as more certain, more laser precise release of the joints. So that's your no intensity day. Then follow that with 6-degree flow. So that's how you would integrate those three. Nancy, could I explain about good form and or point you to where I explain it? Okay. So it's a very important topic, and I've written about it exhaustively. I mean, it's the best job that I've done in the 6-degree flow handbook. The best job that I've done in describing the science of good form, because most form is taught. The concept of form is taught skill specific. So people can tell you what is good form with a particular exercise, with a particular movement, but they can't tell you what is your good form. I've had to learn what that is, unfortunately, the hard way. So go ahead and read the manual. But in particular, I want you to focus on understanding the 5 levels of breath, because this is your best feedback on how your body is receiving technique. Now in yoga, we talk about this as entering an exercise and also exiting. Can I enter the exercise? Most of us can't. Why? The occupational adaptations that we have from the day, now that could be short range stiffness, it could be short range stiffness is also muscle tightness from holding a particular position. So right now I'm leaning forward into you. Let's say I do this repeatedly, and you can see I've got a huge melon. The more that I hold, for most people this is 1/7 of our body weight. For me, it's closer to 1/6. So for me to hold this, all of the muscles and tissues across my upper back and neck need to tighten, unless I'm in alignment. Because I get emphatic in the way I talk, and I want to get in closer, I'm going to hold my head up using those tissues. If I hold that too long, then that tightness is going to follow me when I leave. Most of us stay chair-shaped. I stay airplane-shaped quite a bit. So I need to release that before I try and enter an exercise. Pardon me. If I don't, then I'm going to strengthen this short range stiffness and it will become thickened fascially and stronger dysfunctionally. So good form begins with a clean slate. John Locke called this tabula rasa. So I want to clean the slate, and the best way to do that is, again, to go back to, I can't remember, Mike's question, is use the unbinding. I've also included specific mobility warm-ups in 6-degree flow. But if you do a longer session, it's better. More recovery is better. You can add more recovery, but you can't add more work. So use the specific program absolute minimum. If you can, go into unbinding, and that will launch your good form, because the slate's clean for your body to receive the technique. Your breath will be a feedback mechanism for you to know exactly when you're stepping out of good form. All right. Buzzbird. If you do into flow in the morning, do you need to warm up prior to doing 6-degree flows? It's a really good question. So it depends. It really depends. I do quite a bit of mobility training, and I found that, and please don't abuse what I'm about to say, I found that there's about a week to maximum 2-week bleed over. If I could do absolutely no mobility training, if I stopped, about a week from now, that's when I would start to feel my old aches and pains return. And 2 weeks from now, they'd be back. I'd be the Tin Man again. So, but that's from doing them consistently, and I mean for years and years and years. For the average person who is just getting into mobility training, you want to ensure that you put in your bank at least 3 months of daily joint mobility, of into flow, before you think of cutting it short. I would add in the very short, it's only 4 or 5 minutes of specific mobility before you do any of my programs. Why? What I was talking to Nancy about was that if you want good form, you have to clean the slate for you to receive the technique. And my job is to make this as simple as possible for you. So me, without the social life that I have, I'm in here in my mad laboratory looking at the angles of force and trying to determine, okay, what's the functional opposite of that, and how can I enable this? And I find that fascinating. For me, it's a puzzle. So I've programmed it with exactly the right mobility drill to warm up and exactly the right yoga position to compensate for what you've done. Do that at least for 3 months. When you have 3 months in the bank, then you can think about cutting short on a specific mobility routine if you're doing the longer mobility routine in the morning. Okay, just to make sure. It's only 4 or 5 minutes. You can handle it, I promise. Okay, I'm falling behind here. Chris, AMACBJJ. I've had issues with workout partners trying to match my range of motion and getting injured. Are there options within the program to allow someone to still work out at a lower level? Well, absolutely. It's not for your workout partners. It's for you. It's for me. The lower levels it's not like belt levels in BJJ. I don't do the roll and sway at a brown belt level and then the yaw and heave at a blue belt level. It's not in our linear progression of skill development. It's not the same thing. It's in our recovery from the activities that we have. In particular, jiu-jitsu is significantly demanding to our bodies, and can leave us riddled with aches and pains, especially as we get older. I don't know how old you are, Chris, but in my mid-40s, if I continually have people cranking down on my neck and working for chokes, I'm constantly resisting. So this position I start to get adapted to. And it's not just the adaptations that are bad. It's the internal aches and pains which accumulate. So I need to go down to a lower level until I can, going back to Buzzbird and Nancy's questions, until I can clean the slate. I need to unbind all of this crap. So I need to hit my unbinding and first. Second, I need to tone it down in my flow until my body can restructure without the stressors of resistance in my body. I'm going to say something that's pretty radical, and that is you can't have good jujitsu unless you do this. There are certainly jiu-jitsu players that are intuitively recuperative in this way, that learn to relax and go with the flow. But many of us aren't, including myself. I need hardwired training technologies in order to recover my stress from stress and make sure that my body stays repaired and healthy. So if I want to have smooth jits, I need to unbind, and then I need to drop down levels until my body recovers. And honestly, if you do jiu-jitsu on a weekly basis, you might not ever be fully restored. You're constantly compensating for all of the training stresses that happen and then the emotional and hormonal impact of those stressors. So think about um, a shift in paradigm from I need lower levels for my training partners because you move well to I'm going to move better, so I need to use these lower levels as a pit crew to tighten all of the lugs on my wheels so I can go out and race faster and stop less often. All right. I hope that helps, Chris. Believe me, I understand. Okay. Jay Sanders. All right. I believe I know who this is. Although I don't think you're born in 1983 or I'm getting very old. Looking to step up to FlowFit 4. How often should I test my max rounds in 14 minutes? All right. It's a good question. What I would look for is doing the full test once every 28 days. Do seven cycles of 4 days, and then gradually amp up your time so that you're peaking on that last cycle of 4 days. Now that's been proven, not just by me, but that's been if you go and do the research, especially read the flow books. That's been proven to help you peak. So hit the 28 days and look for your test at the end. Now, what do you do in the interim? Well, you concentrate on the components for the first few cycles. Focus on your biggest problems first. Address the big rocks. So what are the skills of the 7 skills that need the most refinement, and only do those in your FlowFit practice. So extract the other ones and then focus on repeating the skills that need the most work. Then on the subsequent few cycles, focus on the transition between those hard skills, the difficult skills for you, because they're difficult for you. Some are difficult for you, some are difficult for me, and that changes from day to day, especially with you. If this is who I think it is, especially with your judo, you're going to have to look at the verticalized impact of judo upon your body. It takes a cumulative toll because the earth is a big fist, as the professor said. So you want to look at the transition. So what skill is difficult for you? Then bookend it between its neighbors and then focus on that, only that, for the subsequent cycles. Then do test runs as you near your peak of the speed that you want, but taking breaks in between, and then the tempo that you want in order to achieve your goal, your target rounds. Um, so what is the tempo speed for one round? So if you're doing 16 rounds in 14 minutes, you're looking at around 50 seconds. So make sure that you're hitting that for 2 to 3 rounds at a time. Take a minute off, then go and do it again. Uh, and then hit your peak. And that you'll find that that's one of the most effective ways to program success in one program. Of course, everybody wants to do everything all the time and always. Don't. Be a serial specialist. I know that with the advent of certain popularized programs in sports, that people believe in advocating for the generalist. There's no such thing as a generalist. There are only people that work on a set of skills at a particular time. So serial specialization, where you develop one set of skills, then you stop, you peaked, go back, start over, and develop another set of skills. And then keep repeating that over and over again. And then go back to the first skill, but take it from point B to point C. And go back to the second skill, point B to point C. So I hope that helps. All right. Yam or Z? When flow workouts, what mindset do you adopt? Does this change if you're training when doing flow? I saw you. Okay, I'm catching. When doing flow-based workouts, what is the mindset that you adopt? Does this change if you're training for competition? Well, help me with what type of competition, just so I can be relevant. But in general, the mindset that you train with, non-competitive mindset, is the one that you should train with in your competitive mindset. Now, I have a grappling mentality. I have a jiu-jitsu mentality, a sambo mentality, which is I'm going to remain completely relaxed and calm and only use the tension necessary to strengthen and stabilize the braces that I need to absorb and retranslate force. So I need my breath. In particular, I need my exhalation. I need my stance, my posture, my alignment, my position. And I need to focus on accepting what happens and using it to my advantage. So flow is very much indistinguishable from successful competition. If I exhale and move, if I exhale and absorb, no matter what my sport, I'm going to be successful. There's not going to be any sport, no, maybe water bottle blowing, if that's a competitive sport. Then you need to handle that. No, not even that. And perhaps if you're trained from a powerlifting standpoint to do the Valsalva technique, then powerlifting for powerlifting's sake, I'm going to bow out of description of that. But if you are in one rep maximum events, then you need to exhale and move. And that should be your technique. What brace am I going to stabilize? What position am I going to establish? Where can I exhale and relax everything else? So think of yourself like a Buckminster Fuller ball, a tensegrity structure. I want to exhale and protect the struts so that they stay within the position necessary for me to counteract gravity and absorb the force that comes in. And everything else exhales and relaxes. Why? Because it pushes in, stores elastic energy, and then we retranslate it out. So that competitively is going to be your advantage. You're in MMA. Well, good luck, brother, because the ability to express power is as challenging physically as the ability to absorb force. So you have your striking and your grappling elements, and oscillating between the two, it's not tennis. It's not easy. And mentally, what we do is we can get trapped. And I'm going to give you my perspective, obviously. I'm not going to give you other people's perspective. Some people have a different opinion than me. They want to go in and destroy their opponent. I want to go in and use everything he throws at me to my advantage. So I need to remain in flow for that. I look at everything that happens as an opportunity. And when my mind drops down and downshifts because I get hit repeatedly, or I I get perceived bad calls against me, or some type of thing for which I was unprepared happens. My goal is to exhale and upshift my mentality, my attitude back to, this is to my advantage. How can I use this to my advantage? How can I pull this into my structure and express it outward in a way that will put him to sleep? So I hope that helps. Do the same thing in your flow training. Do the same thing in your flow-based workout. Where can I strengthen my struts? Where can I relax everything else? Where can I absorb elastic energy? Where can I exhale to express power? There's no difference between our exercise mentality, our non-competitive mentality, and our competitive mentality. Just think about it. Alex, I have continuous small spasms in my thighs, which I tried to get rid of. Any suggestions? Get a blood panel if you can afford it. Check your magnesium levels. Take a ZMA at night. Maybe you're taking a sufficient amount of potassium, but if you don't have the magnesium for it, you can't shut down that tension. For most athletes, spasms start to end if you're taking a ZMA supplement. That's about, check your hydration levels, should be your first check instead of the supplements. So first, are you taking in a sufficient amount of hydration? Second, are you taking in through food the necessary potassium? And then lastly, most modern people do not have a sufficient amount of magnesium in their diet. So check your magnesium levels, or just take a ZMA, because it's potentially harmless if you get a good one. It's virtually harmless, I mean. Obviously, you can overtake anything. Is TAC-FIT always centered around high-intensity interval training, or could it be used for long-distance training as well? Tactical fitness doesn't happen in long, slow duration repetitive training. So no, if you can't, there's not a TAC-FIT running, or a TAC-FIT kayaking, or a TAC-FIT biking, or TAC-FIT swimming. So those cyclical, long duration cyclical activities, I don't really address. It won't be addressed in tactical fitness. However, from a circular strength training perspective, CST, you'll definitely be benefited. And from a flow standpoint, you're looking for the compensatory opposite to recover functional balance for those activities, because the more that you repeat a particular skill, the more quickly that your body adapts to structural imbalances. So you could look at somebody that's bike shaped, or someone that's running shaped. They have a very distinct posture and a very consistent array of limitations, muted function. So you want to look at, what can I do to mobilize the entire range of motion, the entire range of motion for a particular activity, and then how do I compensate for it? And if that's difficult for you, get in touch with one of my CST instructors, and they can do a Skype or a video conference like this to assess or screen your movement and design a specific program for you to accompany your recreational activity, the cyclical long slow duration training. But I don't really go into the domain of running, biking, swimming. There are much better professionals out there that address those issues than me. I would love to run more often, but it's not something that I have to maximize the value of my time. Jay, how can I diagnose an improper trinity squat that uses too much quads and not enough glutes? Well, brother, you gotta hit back to the pole. Start wrapping yourself around the pole, grab a hold of straps, and work on the alignment of your spine parallel to the wall behind you. If you hold on to straps or towels or ropes so that you can perform the squat leaning back and verticalizing your spine perpendicular to the ground, you're going to find that you're going to have better glute activation. Usually it's the forward lean that makes it quad dominant and causes the knees to run over the toes and the heels to pop up. So that's usually a function of uh, hip tightness, hip flexor tightness. So if you look at upward facing dog, marry the heels together, tuck the tailbone, squeeze the glutes, drive the hips forward. If it's one hip over another, which it might be because of your judo, and you stand a lot from your job, if I remember correctly, then you want to work on a unilateral version of that, like a shin lunge. And don't work for the forward lean. It's very shallow. Work on the tuck and pull forward with the front foot so that you can work on one hip flexor at a time. And it's that release of the tightened psoas that will help you verticalize the spine and then get back to your glutes. Alex, you're saying it's originally from electric acupuncture, but I'm not sure what you're referencing. So if you expand your question and come back, I'll be able to address it. Satnam, with the Wealth of TACFIT programs, how do we effectively use all of the programs to maximize training? Well, if you want to eat an elephant, you do it one forkful at a time. And like I was saying to Jay Sanders earlier, you want to be a serial specialist. So you go through one program, and by one program I mean if you're doing the 4-day wave, you want to do the moderate and high intensity of one particular program all the way through, the whole 28 days. Use any one of the mobility and yoga programs for the no and low intensity days. I really believe that the unbinding program in the current 6-degree flow is the most consolidated and effective from a time management standpoint joint mobility routine that closes the chain and gives me the way to sneak up on the forebrain. Limitations in movement are primarily brain-body disconnects. So through repetition, the neuromuscular pathway becomes overgrown in the opposite direction. So if I do one thing over and over and over and over and over again, this, leaning forward, talking to everybody, then for me to sit up straight, when I sit up straight, what do? I'm going to lift my chest, but look at my neck position. It's still forward. I'm imagining what vertical looks like. My mind, my prefrontal cortex is imagining a verticalized posture. But it doesn't have the instructions to send to all of the amnesic, the tissues that have forgotten to move because they've been overgrown through neuromuscular growth in the opposite direction. So it forgets back here how to realign. By touching the ground, by closing the chain, this unbinding program allows you to reconnect with the lost movement potential. So insert unbinding into your no intensity day. Do it for 3 months. You'll see what happens. Then take your flow and put it on your low intensity day and do one flow at a time. Work on one flow. So there are 3 primary flows which cover 1 degree of rotation and 1 degree of translation. So it's that cam-like effect which will address the compensations in your body. Find the one that's hardest for you, the one that you don't want to do, that's the one you should do. And do that on your low intensity days. On your moderate intensity day, you can do a warm-up of the high intensity program. So you're going to do the same program but higher intensity the subsequent day. Or you can look at it as strength and conditioning. So do your strength day on moderate and your conditioning day on high. There's a reason for that. Strength is a high skill. You do not want significant load bearing to be challenged under high intensity. Now I know that there are high intensity HIT training. The HIT Jedis will jump all over this. I'm sure that no HIT Jedi is ever going to watch me on video. But remember that HIT training is 1, machine-based, 2, ultra short range of motion, 3, controlled under the direction of a particular angle. So yes, they can do high intensity training with significant load, but when we free ourselves from the machines and we want our bodies to have the choice to move and how to activate tissue, then you have to go submaximal. So by conditioning, I do not mean HIT. If you have a strength and conditioning background, then you'll understand what I mean. If you don't, then we don't want to go very heavy weight on our high intensity day. We want to go very hard, very fast, with very little break, and with high volume, higher, to the point that as hard or as fast or as frequent as much as technique can hold. Put that qualifier on. And then on our strength days the day before, you can take a strength version. Let's say you do mass assault, the dumbbell mass assault from TacFit on your moderate intensity day, and then you go full commando on your high intensity day. Then that would be a good 4-day array for you to consistently schedule everything into your program. And if you're a fiend of variety for now, and you want to rotate programs, you can do it every 4 days. I promise you that you're eventually going to get sucked into the numbers. And that's a good thing, because when you get pulled into the numbers, you're going to be able to track progress. It's very difficult to track progress. If you can't track it, you can't measure it, you can't predict it, you can't ensure it, and you can't reproduce it. So if you stick with one program for an entire 28-day cycle, you're going to see massive improvement. However, if you're at where you want to be at, you're fulfilled, and you just want some challenge, and you want to feel great, and you want to look great, and you want to move well, then you can rotate programs every 4 days. It doesn't matter. And I get into that, and sometimes in the summer, I do my 4-day wave, and I don't track anything because it's summer and I'm at the beach and I don't care. But eventually my brain gets sucked into, okay, am I actually benefiting from this? Am I improving? Then it's time to start tracking again. So go back to a single program for high intensity all the way through, a single program for moderate intensity all the way through, or a single program for moderate and high. But you can always rotate those no intensity and low intensity mobility and yoga routines. Yes, Asan, your test worked, so I can hear you. So hold on. We've got lots coming. Okay. Let me backtrack a little. Satnam, then Chris. I have a 4-year-old that has started mimicking me when I'm doing the flows. She doesn't have the best form. Is it okay for her to play with flows? Any risks? Okay, so Chris, I don't know how old you are. Let's say 30-ish. If you have a 4-year-old, maybe, I'm guessing. You're not a dry oak where you have to be concerned about what you do in jiu-jitsu, so you have to be concerned about your joints somewhat. But think of your 4-year-old as a little green sapling. Now, the joints are still cartilaginous, so they have pliability, and it's okay for them to fall. Not on sharp surfaces, obviously. I mean, I'm sure you're just like me, and you de-lethal everything in the freaking house to make sure that your child is not going to be running into anything electrical or pointed. but it's good for them to fall. It gives their vestibular development a boost and biofeedback, and they'll cry, and that's okay. And we don't want to rescue them for it. Let them experience it. They're not going to have very hard bumps. What we want to avoid is the snapping. So you want to make sure that see you, Daniel. Take care, brother. Thanks for coming by. So you want to make sure that they're not going to any locked position. They keep soft joints, so just a slight bend, because the joints are still cartilaginous, so you don't want to address any of the intensity. Don't encourage her to try really hard. Just let her laugh and be a goof, and then that mimicry is going to embed in her neurology, and it's going to have significant carryover, because the best thing that you could do for a child is vestibular development. It gives them neuromuscular confidence, and that accelerates growth and emotional confidence from being able to interact with the world. So I'm a big advocate of tumbling at an early age. Good job. Good job on letting your child come into your practice. It's also going to help us with our practice, right? So, Alex, the thing about acupuncture was my thighs. I wanted to clarify that. Okay. So when it comes to, I consider electrical acupuncture or acupuncture of any kind to be over into the medical domain. I'm not a healthcare professional, so you need to address that with your acupuncturist. I can't. I can help you from an exercise standpoint, but believe me that I know a lot about health and fitness. I don't step outside of that domain because I don't have the differential diagnostics to understand what's going on from their standpoint. They need our help, and from a movement specialist, they need our help in understanding how to enable nutrition to optimize with our movement potential, but I don't step over into their job. It's above my pay grade. Tanya. Finally. Okay, love to hear possibilities for correlation between this physical workflow and mental creative workflow. Well, it's interesting that you say that, because the way I look at my work is I come to a point of, it's not reader's block, but I come to a point where I'm not as optimal as I could be. I'm not clear, I'm not poignant, I'm not productive enough, I'm stagnant, I'm dampened. When I'm writing, when I'm communicating, when I'm thinking about my new projects, the best thing for me to do is to not eat yet, is to go do my flow session, then immediately after my flow session, take a shower and hit my food. Now, most of the time, by the time I get to the shower, I'm already starting to release my brain to function on the tasks at hand. So think of it this way. Let's say we have tension throughout our body for whatever reason. That tension is a stress. Like, let's say we live next to high tension wires, and that stress to our nervous system starts to impede our health and our mental performance. Or if we lived near a chemical plant, the chemoreceptors in our body, just like the electromagnetic receptors in our body, cause a load, a burden to our total system, our total proprioception, our total functioning capacity. The same thing is true with neuromuscular stress. So if I carry stress, whether it be occupational adaptations or interpersonal stress, like if you have workers that are pain in the ass, sorry for everybody, but people that are really at you, or just something that's a highly emotional that you're doing or that's happening in your life. Your food's off. You're working late nights, which I know that you do, and I've told you that you need to get sufficient amount of rest. sleep, rest, uh, that's a burden to your system. So a flow can release temporarily the that stress from the body, which releases your this part of your brain to operate. Our creative thought, our our high activities happen in the prefrontal cortex, and that that's released from the burden of the neurological stress through flow. It's a very simple science. It's not woo-woo at all. You're just lifting the burden off the shoulders of your mind. That's what flow does for me. So do it when you need to figure something out, when something's really hard or something's very overwhelming. Do your flow. Focus on your breath. Let thoughts go in, thoughts go out. Take your shower. Nice hot one. Go hit your food. I promise you, you'll be right as rain. You'll have the idea that you need. 7. I recently became aware of your programs. My brother has 1.5 months before boot camp. Which program should he do? 1.5 months. Well, it depends on what's going on with his body. Like, if you give me more details about your brother, in general, go with commando, TAC-FIT commando. But if he's already stressed out, if his body has significant stress, if he has a lot of weight burden, then you also want to consider the current 6-degree flow program, because one, the package is huge and has a lot of bonuses that are going to go away, and at the current price, it's hard to pass up. And two, you want to. There are 2 types of force. You have your driving force, which is your accelerator, and then you have your restrictive forces, your emergency brake. So we want both forces. We want to stomp on the accelerator, but not before we disengage the emergency brake. So 6-degree flow is designed to disengage the emergency brake. That's free power, free energy. I want you to think about that. You don't have to work toward it. You have to unlock it. You have to release it. So it's not anything you have to build. It's something that's locked in cold storage that you have to exhume. So I would say 6-degree flow or commando. It depends on where he is. If he already has a good practice, a good stretching routine, a good yoga practice, a good consistent mobility discipline, then start with commando. Otherwise, take advantage of 6-degree flow. Don't pass it up. Especially when he's going to go in there, he's going to need the breathing skills to get himself through boot and be able to acclimate to the changes, the mental and emotional stressors of refocusing his concentration. Good luck to him, and thank him for his service. All right, let me zoom up here. Mike, do you no longer do head-to-toe into flow? Beyond unbinding, do you recommend it? Well, unbinding is head-to-toe. It's just horizontalized. So it's this same cephalocaudal proximal distal trend. Sorry, folks. There's a trend that our body goes through when we develop. We have huge head, little tiny arms, little tiny legs, and a bigger belly. And then our appendages grow out and our spine grows down. And then we grow into our skin. So neurologically, we have a pattern we can follow. If we do our warm-up routine in the way that our body has warmed up to life, then you're going to be optimizing your function. So yes, I still do head to toe, but I'm a hard case getting into my middle age and doing training so much throughout the day. Even teaching training is training. It's a total stress load. So still do it. Beyond unbinding, do I recommend head to toe? Unbinding is head to toe. 15 messages behind. Let me catch up here. Stand by. Holy smokes. Thank you for all the questions. I really appreciate your interest and concern with your health. It means a lot to me and to everyone that the better you are, the better we all can become. And your best self becomes the best benefit of everyone. Taking the time to take care of yourself helps everyone. Alex, will this be available after the live session? Yes. Once I hit stop record. Hopefully all of this is recorded. I am 45, right there with you. And I haven't worked out in years. I have 2 questions. And then there are no questions listed. Hopefully, when they come out, or maybe other people ask a lot of questions in between. I'll get back to you. Try and put everything. Oh, you have a limited number of characters. Okay. J. I've been adding low to moderate intensity skills at the back end of my TACFIT protocol days, training technical hammers, mills, and swipes, or adding 8 rounds of FlowFit 3 at less than 60% heart rate max. I've had good results developing skills, but am I adding too much work? Well, do you feel that you're fully recovered? If you feel that you're fully recovered, if you're not experiencing any DOMs, if you have improved range of motion, if you don't feel any lag in energy where you don't feel like you can go at the intensity level that your schedule currently says that in the 4-day wave, that if your schedule says that you should be at high intensity and you feel, oh, I'm going to have to push it. Don't push it. Go back and do another low intensity day. Do a no, low, mod, low. But if you don't feel that, if you're hitting your high intensity consistently with technique, keep going. There's no known limit to how high we can spiral. But don't neglect to downshift occasionally and give yourself just an extra day of love and make sure that everything is glued together. So every now and then, if you keep on progressing up and up, add an extra day of recovery just to check out and then see how you feel the day after. You might even go even faster, higher. Hassan, is it okay to use the new 6-degree flow if you have sciatic pain in your right leg? Well, it's not okay to use anything if it increases nerve pain. You can challenge the muscles, but you can't challenge the nerves. What I suggest that you look at is your lower back and check out if you have any potential impingements in your pelvic tuck or arch. If that's the case, go to a chiropractor or healthcare professional and have them look at your lumbar spine. Usually sciatic pain is associated with some type of herniation or bulging of the discs in your lower back, but you never want to challenge that. So if something causes you to increase nerve pain, don't do it. Anything. However, if you find that 24 to 48 hours later, you feel better from a particular activity, if it didn't worsen it and it feels better 1 to 2 days later, then keep doing it. So you have to use your best judgment. I mean, obviously we can't go to the doctor every single time where a particular part of our body feels vulnerable. You have to use your intuition and trust your intuition. But just because something feels good immediately does not mean that it's good for you. What do I mean by that? So let's say you have a spasm in your neck. What happens? People start pulling down their head to try and stretch out the spasm from the tweak in their neck. Or they try and bend over and touch their toes when their lower back feels like it's in spasm. They want to stretch it out. Think of a spasm as a splint. If you have a slightly bulging disc, the tissues around it are going to tighten to try and protect it from further bulging or herniation. So then a day to 2 later, the nerve pain's even worse. So it feels relieving to stretch out that tension, but the body's doing what it's supposed to do. It's trying to give you a break. Well, it's trying to protect you from a break. So the best gauge is if it doesn't worsen from doing a particular activity, keep doing it. and then check 1 to 2 days later and see has there been improvement. If it feels better, then you probably found a solution that helps the issue resolve. But continue to check periodically with your healthcare professional to make sure that everything's okay. Mike, I'm interested in studying Baguazhang. Any resources for self-study? What is my history? Well, I don't have any history of Baguazhang. My first martial art was Pakwa Chang, which is a variant. So I can't help you in that particular direction. You could go into Facebook and look up my original teacher, who is incredible, Tim Warfield, and then contact him. But I don't have any references to help you in that direction. I'm sorry. Any resources for self-study? No. But think of it this way. There's no way that your body can compartmentalize flow. It's not discipline specific. So you can't have flow in one aspect of your life if you're going to be an explosive, volatile, aggro, highly aggressive individual in your corporate career. You've got, and then expect to be all aplomb and sang Freud in your practice. It's got to be contiguous with the rest of your lifestyle. So if you practice flow in your physical training, you can expect there to be an accelerant in your martial art. Traditional martial arts understood this, but with the advent of modern mixed martial art, we threw the baby out with the bathwater. Now that's starting to change. In the past 20 or 30 years, we went only to the things that were effective. I remember back in the early 90s, everyone said that the high kicks to the head are unrealistic in actual real fighting. And wow, look at the things that are happening now. Oh, the modern mixed martial artist is a freaking beautiful thing to watch. But we're still not yet at understanding the impact of lifestyle training for longevity, and how traditional martial artists, especially Chinese martial art, understood that it was whoever has the most years in on training is going to be the best warrior. It's not who trains the hardest, who carries the most muscle mass, who is the most competitively successful. If that person can't walk by the time they're 35 because of so many injuries to their bodies, or if God forbid that they were even shortened in their lifespan, whoever has the most years in is going to be the best martial artist. So think about how much flow can I have for how long? How can I extend my life to add years to my training? And then step on the mat and see the difference. You see, I've met some very old practitioners. I still haven't figured out. There are few that still baffle me. And a friend of mine's, an author, a famous author, Stephen Barnes, quoted, and I can't remember the source of the quote, but when any technology is significantly advanced enough, the culture viewing it will perceive it as magic. And there have been a few people that seem magical to me. They've just exceeded the research that I've been able to compile from the disciplines I've studied. Jeff, I have mild RSI in my forearms from gripping and push-ups. I've been working with the strain prevention, but do I have any more direct recommendations? Well, check out in unbinding, work specifically with the rotation from seal to bulldog. It's a new closed chain exercise that I've created that addresses some of the compensations that happen specific from gripping, because most of our training is either static, fixed position of the hand, or gripping. But the extension is the compensation for most of our work. So check it out in the unbinding program from 6 Degree Flow. That'll help. Vino, Scott, I've had to buy 6 Degrees even though I already have several other programs. I totally love it. My question is it okay to share the program with your family not living in the same house? Thank you for asking. No, I really appreciate that. Yes, it's okay to share it with your family unless you have 50 cousins and then they have to buy a copy each. Yeah, it's okay to share it with your family. Go, go, go. 7. Your is this your brother? Your brother is stressed, 5'8", probably 15 to 20 pounds he could lose. I've just got it yesterday. No mobility right now that I know of, so I'll give it to him for graduation. 7, that's about your best bet. I really believe that he's going to get all the conditioning he needs when he gets to boot. He'll get the specific conditioning he needs, and depending upon the service, I mean, our military is really getting to the point where we're having the actual tactical fitness that we need. It's not arbitrary calisthenics or wellness training. It is the specific fitness needed for the shooting platforms and the recovery from long duration rucking that will help them be able to do their job. It's a job enabler and it's relevant. So what you do need to help them with is to be able to de-stress all of the junk in his body, especially throughout boot, so that he has some type of internal sanctuary for him to recover. The person that recovers mentally and emotionally fastest is going to win in that situation and not wash out. I wish him my best. Okay, 9 messages behind. We have 23 minutes before we're going to have to sign off. Okay. Tanya, I had ad pop-ups and cut you off while you were answering my question. I hope there's a replay. Yeah, and I'm sorry about the ad pop-ups, but we will have a replay. There's probably going to be a little ad on the bottom there, but that's what you get with free services. So try and ignore it and just look at all my beautiful scars. All right. Mike, I tried roll and sway. Broke down technique with the bent leg, 3-leg dog. Any value with working the first half? Yeah, Mike. So when you read, you tried it already. Good job. So when you read through the manual, there are going to be directions to cut out wherever technique starts to break down. Don't go any farther through the program. So you're just going to repeat those cycles, those earlier steps for the duration of the workout, and you want to continue until you get it wrong. So you want to continue to where things start to break down, and then you repeat it and you continue until you get it right. And you don't go progressing on through the program until you are able to do well that one new component that was breaking down. And that's a particular nesting technique that I talk about in the manual. These mnemonic devices for motor acquisition. I've had to acquire over the years for me to be able to internalize new movement skills. You go until you find the thing that you can't do, then you stop and you keep practicing until you can do it well, and then only then do you take the next step, and then you work on the transitions to the next step, and then you move up to the thing that you can't do, and you stop, you go back, go down to the beginning, and you work up to it again. Everything is programmed step by step, so that if you start over, you'll go up and you'll have it more refined every time that you go through the process. Trust me, no social life. This is all I think about all the time. My poor wife. Okay. Yammer, thank you for all the answers. It really is my pleasure. I can't tell you how much it means to me that you have these questions about my workouts, my programs, my books, my DVDs. It makes me completely thrilled that you're taking the value out of them. Otherwise, it's just been me that's benefited from all of my teachers, my coaches, my research. I want you to benefit. I want others to benefit from it. So as much as I can, I want to be able to answer questions that help you get into the programs. B. Dixon. How can 6-degree flow be used with TAC Gym? Okay. So think of your TAC Gym as a moderate intensity workout. It's not really going to be done under high intensity because the amount of uh, challenge will start to push you. Uh, but if you have highly developed skills with your tactical gymnastics, then you can take it up to high intensity. But you want to look at 6-degree flow as your low intensity compensation, and it's the optimal compensation for tactical gymnastics. It's designed to integrate with the two. So do those on your low intensity days, and then do them binding on your no intensity day. Alex, I've learned about cold dowsing and its health benefits. Any thoughts? After 6 years in Russia and being cold every single freaking day, uh, the benefits of cold dowsing, I try and avoid cold showers. I mean, sometimes I have to take them, but sorry, brother. I understand how the shock to the immune system improves its strength, and through the thermoreceptors of the body. So you have receptors in your body which are proprioceptors. So you have thermoreceptors, and then shocking them with that ice cold water stimulates the immunobolstering effects. I get it. I'm there. I did it. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm going to do it through food and through training stress, and that's. But other people do it, and that's fine for them. I don't like deep cold anymore. I know ice baths are great for you, and it's a big vogue. Um, I don't need any more shocks to my system. I've got plenty, and you just my only advice to you is go incremental. Getting your ass thrown into the Baltic Sea in February supposedly will improve your immune system, but it ends up with causing you to have no flesh on your fingertips. So you try to claw your way up the boat ramp. So what I suggest is just take it incremental. Just take it incremental, and then look at your duration from the last time that you had some type of cold flu. If you're not seeing any change, then stop torturing yourself. Just improve the quality of your food, your meal timing, your rest, how well you're sleeping, and your work performance, how well you can do your job, how well you can hold your technique and your exercise, how emotionally controlled you are in dire circumstances and hardships and emotional challenges. That's all you need. All right. Son, what about AM morning and or PM evening workouts? What is your experience and recommendation? I do an AM PM split most of the time, uh, but I also can organize my entire day. Everything for me is minute to minute, where I know, like for instance, when I'm home and I'm not doing a project, I peak myself. I look at my wave of energy, my biorhythm, my circadian rhythm, and I hit my peak from when I'm with my wife and kids. That's when I want to have my best energy. And when I'm doing a project, then I look at, I've got to do my morning workout to restore my body's function so it can move. I will add training stress to that sometimes when I have to add stress to it, and I know that I'm going to have a longer night. I'll do the mobility at night, but I'll the 4-day wave after a few years of practice, 2 to 3 years of doing the 4-day wave, starts to compress sometimes to 2 days, where you have the no, low, moderate, high across 2 days, and sometimes you'll find that it starts to lengthen out again, and you're back to one workout a day based upon your fatigue levels and based upon your high energy levels. So the higher your energy, it's a hint, run with it, stick to your biorhythm. But if you find that the lag or drop off is too significant, this path has been followed many times by thousands of people across the world. Trust me, do 2 to 3 years of the 4-day wave before you start tinkering with 2 days. if you're going to do anything in an AM/PM split before those 2 to 3 years, do your mobility practice in the morning and then do your workout at night. Son, on my YouTube new flow vid, you can't do the one arm where one arm is on the floor and the other is in the air. Son, I don't understand what you're saying. Sorry. I'm not exactly sure what the question means. Maybe you can ask it on Facebook. We only have 15 minutes left. So maybe you can ask it again. I'm 12 messages behind, but I'll try and get to it. Yammersy, the quote is from Arthur C. Clarke's 3 Laws. I think you'd like the other 2 as well. Hey, thank you. Is that the one about significantly advanced technology appears as magic to a culture? I'll check them out. I was such a science fiction geek when I was a kid. Most of my friends were books. I forgot where the authors were. Okay. Jay Sanders. My shoulders have come out of pack when I sleep on my side and strains my IC joint. Have I ever come across this? Yeah. What I would suggest is think of a new position when you're sleeping, because I'm not exactly sure what's causing it, and take a look at your workout. So if you're doing a lot of pulls, high pulls like pull-ups, that may be the issue. When it's finally relaxing when you sleep horizontal to the ground, then it's decompressing to such a significant degree that it's causing some discomfort, and that may be from overtraining that's trying to finally relax. Think of arm screws, and do those arm screws before you go to sleep, and then do overhead circles and slow backstrokes when you get out of bed. See how that helps. Vino, I may have 50 cousins, but I'm sharing with my mom. Okay, deal. Mike, thanks for all the answers. You are welcome, sir. Son, thank you for the Q&A. It's so rare for someone of my caliber to engage with us. You're the best. Really, it's my honor. Buzzbird, thank you, Coach. Thank you, Buzz. Peter, appreciate you speaking with us tonight. Your words of wisdom tonight and daily on Facebook are inspiring. It's, I'm appreciative that they're of value to you. Nancy, thank you very much, especially for the care you take with people. It's my honor. Satnam, God bless you. Thank you for your sharing your knowledge with us. God bless you. Take care, everybody. Paul, how you just explained progression where you fail sounds like what I read in the Talent Code. Talent Code's an excellent book. Chris, thank you, Coach. This was really great. Lots of questions and information. Okay, so we're over time. I'm going to stop the record again. Thanks everybody for participation in the teleconference and the Q&A. So thanks for such awesome questions. Please feel free to contact me on Facebook when you have questions about the 6 Degree Flow program. Tell your friends about it. Remember that for the next day and a half, it's $87 plus all of the bonuses, and those bonuses are going to be gone. We do this special promotional offer to make up for all of the investments that we put into releasing the program, and in this short-term launch, we recover all of our costs. So we can't do this forever because no product can be on sale like this forever. So take advantage of it. Please tell everybody about it before it ends. I apologize to everybody that can't get it before the sale ends. Operationally, it's not possible for us to continue this, and it's not fair to everybody else. So again, thank you, and we'll see you soon.